So it's been a little while since made any videos. My wife was off all last week and we worked on the bathroom a lot. So I wasn't out here hardly at all. I did pull the engine out. Just came out here this morning, pulled the head off to see what I could see. And I'll give you guys a peek at that. It looks to me like this is they're standard pistons. I've used my calipers here, and it's a 4-inch bore. How well that'll show. The cylinder walls don't, in my opinion, don't look too bad. I mean, I don't know that they'll need to be bored or just honed. There's not really a lip here. I know it looks like there is, but you can't really feel it. There's maybe just a little bit, but I'm not sure that's not honable. But I don't know that much about engines on this level, so that's probably something I have to take up with the machine shop, or I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, looking like standard pistons. So if this has been rebuilt, they just changed the rings or something. I don't know. But everything else doesn't look too bad as far as I can see. So I took all my rockers out and placed them like they came out. I don't know that those are, well, I know for sure they're not going to be reused, because I'm going to put a roller in this if I go back with when I go back with the different camshaft and all that. So, but I don't know. This may just need new rings and bearings and cleaned out and honed out and all that kind of stuff, and may just be one of those deals I can put it back together and go with it, obviously with the different camshaft. But I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. I kicked around throwing that thing over there into this, and it kind of turned into I don't know. One thing I've found since I've started doing body work and all the stuff that I've been doing is literally there's almost no one that will agree on everything or anything, or really not everything, anything. I mean, I could tell you that the leg of that is blue, and I would have 10 different opinions on it saying, no, it's more green, or it just blows my mind that people can't get on the same page with anything. It's like there has to be a proven method that works, that, you know what I mean? It's the same with the body. Okay, well, should you put the filler under the epoxy or over the epoxy? Well, it depends on who you ask. Old school guys are going to be like, oh no, you always go direct to metal, and then the new guys are going, no, that's stupid, you don't do that. And then, well, what about paint? Well, don't use that product. You can't use this product with that product, and this is my opinion on this. And so the same thing happened with this. So I'm going to drop, thinking, I'll just drop my big block, because that was running when I pulled it out. So I thought, well, hell, I'll just drop it in here. All I got to probably do is change motor mounts and da-da-da-da. So I get on the forums, and jeez, what a freaking mess that is. Oh, you got to have this certain kind of deal, and then you're going to have special headers made, or you're going to have to make your headers, adapt them to fit around, because that won't fit, and this won't fit, and I mean every different opinion you could ever freaking dream of. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely, I don't see how anyone gets anything done, period, with that many different opinions. I don't know. So yeah, that was a little frustrating. You got to have certain mounts for this to go into this, and because the 4-wheel drives didn't come out standard with the big block, the 2-wheel drives did. Some of them did. But will the two-wheel drive motor mounts work with the four-wheel drive, or is there clearance issues? And some people are saying, well, you got to move this forward, and if you do that, then you're going to have to move your transmission forward, and then you're going to have drive shaft lengthen. And I'm like, man, I just wanted to drop this in here so I could pull it in and out. I don't want to go through all this modification stuff, so I may be back to just getting a winch and just winching this thing in and out while this is being done. But you'll understand, I got my flex plate out over there for the big block. I got a new clutch here that I bought for the big block. All this stuff mates right up. Bell housing all fits like it's, you know, everything's pretty much the same, minus this stuff here and getting your exhaust taken care of. And your power steering brackets. You got to get different power steering brackets for a big block. Alright, I got some stuff done. I got the motor over there. This motor up on the stand, cleaned up as best as I can get it right now. I mean, I just cleaned it off with alcohol, and it's pretty dusty and dirty. Those took a while. They were covered like freaking 1/4 inch thick grease, nasty. They still need more attention. I may degrease them one more time, rinse them, and then sandblast them and repaint them. And that will be with Krylon. I'm not hooking up a whole freaking paint setup. But I do have some etch primer that I'll spray over it, and then, you know, do some good thick industrial Krylon, let that set up. But I bolted the small block mounts to the big block. I'm going to set that down in there and see what all clearance issues it looks like I have, how high that needs to come, since no one can agree on what exactly it needs, what kind of mounts it needs to bolt in there. And in my understanding, everything else should mount right up. I'll probably have to buy some more of these bolts because it's been too long since I took those out, and I have no clue where my flex plates bolts are. I cleaned this up the other day. It doesn't look too bad. I had it surfaced. What had happened originally when I took this out, the reason I did was because the starter was off a little bit, and I think these things were notorious for this, but it kept grabbing and sounded horrible when you tried to start the car, and it ended up ripping some teeth, and every time it would turn over, it would land in the same spot. It was a pain in the butt. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to pull that out, and that's what ended up happening. I'm going to pull this out and put a new flywheel in, have this surfaced. Bought me a new clutch plate, which I have over there. I think that's a new pressure plate as well. Say new, it's freaking 5 or 6 years old, but it's never been in a vehicle. So, and that's kind of where I was with it, and I was going to put it all back in there, and then then that happened. You talk about a squirrel, that happened. So, if anybody knows what that means, I think it says hyper puss, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so we may try to stick that in there and see what happens. I'm not going to get real crazy if if I have to start modifying a bunch of stuff, it's not going to happen, because ultimately this is going to be put in there just to move it in and out. Maybe a little bit of fun to drive it like that, but for a little bit. But that motor's pretty tired too. I mean, I was hard on that thing. I feel sorry for it now. I didn't drive that car very often, but when I did, it was pretty much sideways down the street, fishtailing both ways. It had full Positrack 373 gears, 4-speed Muncie, and I would just roast those tires. It was lots of fun. But and this, I've got to figure out. This is a Mallory United distributor that I had in it. I've got this little clip here. But this clip fell off, and God knows where that thing is. It's been too many years, so I've got to see if I can find or order another one of these. Looks like there was a little plug in here. Maybe I can get the plug while I'm getting but I may call Mallory or Unilite or whatever the company is and say, this is what I've got, and see if they can send me a couple of little pieces there for not too awful expensive. But this was kind of my answer to not having a points distributor on this, and because this thing was shoehorned in there, a HEI would not fit without, and it looked like somebody had smashed. That's why I replaced this to begin with. It's because somebody took a hammer and beat that completely in. That's not why that was, this was fine over here, but somebody was clearing for the, I don't know, probably the valve covers or something over here wasn't clearing, so they just beat the snot out of it. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today. If anybody knows a good way to clean, this is almost, it's really new. It's just sat for so long and it needs to be cleaned. And I see people sandblast these and they just don't look good after they sandblast them. Not that this looks great, but this is a Edelbrock air gap. It's a pretty nice intake manifold, and eventually I'd like to make it look new again, but I don't know exactly how that happens. I don't know if they bead blast those or glass blast those, or if there's some kind of deal that they do that makes these look new again, because I haven't, sandblasting does not seem to do it, at least from what I've seen. Alright guys, see ya. Alright guys, so it's sitting in there. It's actually sitting down on the motor mounts and stands. These are the small block motor mounts bolted to the big block, and then my regular stands. I didn't want to order a bunch of stands and stuff and then have it bite me in the ass because something else doesn't fit. So what I'm running into, which I read on some of the forums, is that valve cover right there is going to end up hitting the firewall. This still needs to slide back probably at least 2 inches, maybe 3, and there's just no way that's happening with the way that's sitting. The motor mount, and you can see here, the motor mount needs to slide back pretty far, which means that needs to slide back underneath there. Now maybe there's a different stand that drops this a little bit lower, that would drop this thing down farther, or something that'll make this work. But the way it sits right now, I don't see it. I've got plenty of room behind the distributor. That's not an issue at all. But not only this side, it's literally, it's just sitting in there, but it's smashing my wires right there, which is probably not good because those are pretty expensive wires. But even over here on this side, you can see maybe an inch before it hits, and it's got to come back 2 to 3 inches. So it either needs to drop down in there lower and move back, or it's just not going to work. So let me crawl underneath real quick, and hopefully let me grab a light, because this will give you an idea how far I got to go with this. Oh. Now, I don't have a clutch plate or flywheel or anything like that on. I just want to sit it in here to mock it up to see. But you can see the where the shaft is, and I forgot what that shaft's called. There's a throwout bearing, and then your shaft, and then the little end deal that mates up inside the crankshaft. It's quite a ways away from it. Now I can move the transmission down more, or I can go up with the block a little bit more, but regardless, it's got to come backwards at least 2 inches, and you can see the gap up top. So that motor literally needs to drop down and come back, and this transmission needs to come down a little bit more, which, like I said, I can do that literally from right here, maybe. Not so easy with one hand. Hold on a sec. Alright, so that got
the shaft. I got the shaft. It's like me, I'm getting the shaft. So you got it lined up with the block, but it still has to come back. You can see quite a bit, at least 2 inches. So that's kind of where I'm at. And like I said up there, if that'll show, I don't know what I'll show. Well, right here you can probably see from that pin, that dowel pin, I've got at least 2 inches probably that needs to come up to, or right at 2 inches. So something's got to change. And I'm just clearing, like literally just clearing the oil pan on this, and it's sitting on the mounts. So I don't know. I lost a bunch of weight and I still make a bunch of old man groaning noises. I guess just what happens when you get old. So yeah, that's it. So there you go. I'll probably end up having to pull this back out because it's just probably not going to work, and we will eventually get that thing shipped off and get it ready to rebuild. So anyway, yeah, too bad. I'm not going to give up just yet. I'm going to talk to some people and see what we can come up with, but man, that right there is the killer. And yeah, I can cut that out. I've seen guys take sledgehammers and beat that in. I don't want to do that to this truck. Now I can cut that out and fab in a piece and make that work, but I'd have to do it to both sides, and also it's still got to come down and go back. So something's up with something's not jiving with these mounts, or the stands, not the mounts. The stands need to be like lower or something to where that'll drop down, and then again it's still got to move back, so you still got the clearance issue. So alright, let me know what you think.